Hello all. So I'm finally around to making a third video in this series, why the UNRWA is terrible for Palestinians. I want to talk a little about the UNRWA in Gaza, the Gaza Strip. Specifically the UNRWA and how they relate to Hamas, and how they prop up Hamas's illegal, corrupt rule in Gaza. Now, I'd like to state right now, very strongly, I don't say that Hamas's rule is illegal because I don't like them or I'm opposed to them. I call Hamas's rule illegal because they seized power in a military coup. Unelected, unwanted. Anyway. Now, since Hamas is operating as the de facto government of the Gaza Strip, illegal as it may be, there are certain things that a government is supposed to do that Hamas is not doing, because the UNRWA is doing it. And so Hamas gets all the benefits that they want out of being the government. They have the power to seize property, enforce laws, arrest people, throw people in prison. They can draft people, they can seize property. Did I say that already? I don't know. Anyway, without having to do things like run schools, provide jobs, because the UNRWA is doing that. The UNRWA runs schools and hospitals, provides jobs and infrastructure. And so Hamas gets all that done without needing to expend any of their own resources, any of their own money, any of the contributions that come into Gaza for the purpose of helping people there, instead of being taken by Hamas and used to kill Jews and kill Palestinians. Well, actually, probably a lot more Palestinians than Jews, actually. They're very equal opportunity killers. And yet Hamas is still able to choose how those resources are used. The ones going through the UNRWA, I mean. As one example, one big glaring example. In 2009, people in the UNRWA, people who were outside of Gaza, tried to put through a measure to teach a course in UN schools in Gaza about the Holocaust, which I suppose was supposed to teach people that Jews are real people and have suffered things too. I don't really see how that would be very productive. I think there are much better ways to spend people's time and money, more efficient ways of teaching that lesson if that's what they wanted to teach, but, I'm not there, not my decision to make. Hamas blocked it. Hamas. Now, whatever you think about the Holocaust, whatever you think about the Jews or the conflict here, the fact that a terrorist group is able to decide what a UN aid agency is and is not allowed to do is really bad. But it goes a lot deeper than that. In UN schools in Gaza that are run by the UNRWA, the curriculum is, to at least a large extent, dictated by Hamas. Or if it's not, I'd really like to hear why you think that the UN would be teaching jihad, teaching hatred of Jews. Also, in UN schools in Gaza, they give paramilitary training. They give people paramilitary training in UN schools so that they can then be recruited by Hamas to go and kill Jews. So, how is it that Hamas has so much power? How is it that Hamas is able to exert so much control over the UNRWA and what they do in Gaza? Well, out of over 23,000 people who are employed by the UNRWA in Gaza, about 100 are not from there. So, a very large number of those people, I'm not sure how many, a very large number of those people employed by the UNRWA are also employed by Hamas. Or if they're not directly employed by Hamas, they are affiliated with Hamas in various ways. They're related to people who are leaders in Hamas. And everyone else who is not actually employed by Hamas or associated with Hamas, if they do anything that Hamas does not want to do, they and their families are in mortal peril. Because Hamas does indeed kill anybody who does things they don't like. Or throw them in prison. Or torture them. Or torture their families. We're not talking about good people here. We are, in fact, talking about a gang of terrorists. So, is this actually good for the Palestinian Arabs in Gaza? No. No, it's not. Propping up a terrorist dictatorship is not good for the people living there. And okay, I want to double back a little bit. Hamas does take at least some measures to ensure that it is very strongly associated with the Palestinian Arabs employed by UNRWA in Gaza. For example, there was a quote-unquote mutiny by employees in Gaza who seized control at the HQ there, and they were backed up by Hamas. In fact, Hamas actually physically prevented other UNRWA employees from taking action against them. That's not good. That's really not good. When a terrorist group is getting involved in a labor dispute in a UN aid agency, there's something going on there. There's something really bad going on there. Now, what could possibly be done about this? What could anyone do to stop this from going on, to make things better for the people who actually live in Gaza? Well, I suppose really the only thing that anyone could do about the UNRWA is just shut them down. Okay? Perhaps move all their assets over to being governed by the High Commissioner for Refugees, which every single other UN aid agency for dealing with the refugees is. So they no longer have this single agency that has its own unfair standards that are completely different from every other agency on Earth. So you'll no longer have this one aid agency that is devoted specifically to this one group of people, which is, again, it's the only UN agency in the world that is so specific. And also, that way, hopefully, there'd be someone who has a specific job of making sure that terrorist groups do not have so much influence over what a UN aid agency does, which would absolutely be an improvement. Now, the other thing you could do to make things better for people in Gaza is take out Hamas, which I think the only people who could possibly do that is Israel, and for some God only knows reason, I don't. We're not doing that. Honestly, once Hamas seized power in Gaza, we had every right to retake the Gaza Strip. Our agreement to relinquish the Gaza Strip was with the Palestinian Authority, not with Hamas. For good reason, because as corrupt and venal as the Palestinian Authority is, they are elected. They are a legally embodied body that is authorized to represent and govern the Palestinian Arab people. Hamas is a gang of terrorists who seized power in a military coup. And they, at least in part, depend on the UNRWA to prop up their rule. And, well, there's no way that is good for the people of Gaza. Or there's no way that, I cannot think of any way that is good for the people of Gaza. If you know of any way that's good for the people of Gaza, let me know. Comment below. Start a conversation. Educate me. There's a lot I don't know, and I would be very happy to learn more from someone who knows different from me. So that's it. Important topic. Good thing to converse about. Please like, share, subscribe, and have a nice day. Bye.